You are listening to Off Color, and tonight we're going to be talking about Kanye West and his remarks. We're going to be talking about Rachel Dolezal's documentary on the Netflixes, and we're going to be talking about my film, which is not on Netflix, but Netflix, if you out there, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Hit me up. My shit's tight. And
Childish Gambino.
Oh my God.
On the Saturday Night Lives is.
Yeah, and just fucking, this is America, and this is Off Color.
We're rolling.
Yo, baby pops.
Hi, Rebecca. Is that the Baby Pops character?
Nah, bro, you're still White James. You're still White James. All right, so good evening, Off Color fam. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about right now, but I just want to quickly let you guys know, okay, that my film is coming out. All Mixed Up, Our Changing Racial Identities. That will be Wednesday, May the 9th at this SIE or CE Film Center, which is located in Denver. If you're interested in that project, www.mixedupusa.com. So that's number one. Number two, we have a special guest tonight. It's a person I never thought would be on this show. Somebody I had never dreamed of. And I'd like to introduce you to my beautiful husband, and his name is
Idris Elba.
Very nice.
I mean, Ken McCorkle.
Ken McCorkle is the cream in my mocha latte. He is everything I have ever wanted in a man. Almost. Wow. And
should have heard. Should have heard what she was saying before I hit record, because it was a distinctly different.
All right, no. But for real though, there has been some pre-drinking before this episode, and I want to express that once again. I will not say any expletives about white people.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good.
Unless they're Rachel Dolezal. Anyway, all right, so now we are getting into some of our stuff. So I wanted to catch you up, White James, on a few things that have happened since we last got together. Mm-hmm. So my beautiful husband, say hi, Kenny.
Hi.
He's so cute. All right. Reunited his band. It was like, did you ever see that episode of Portlandia where they get the band back together and they're like super old and it's like real funny?
Oh yeah, Henry Rollins is in it.
Yeah, Henry Rollins.
Yeah.
And he's like, we shouldn't do this screaming stuff. Yeah.
And I feel like I have to apologize on air that I missed your show.
That's
okay.
I wanted to make your show. I was planning to make your show. The whole time I thought it was the same as the Fort Collins Food Fest that's like outdoors and in the afternoon. Yeah. And then when I found out it was at like 8 p.m., all of a sudden it became much more difficult to do with the kids and stuff like that. So I apologize.
No problem. No reason to apologize.
No, but you could have gotten into the club mad easy because you're so white, James.
I've never had a problem getting into a club. That's actually not true. I tried to get...
Go ahead.
Usually we have a guest who I'm like, is like this really respectable, intimidating character. Yes. But because it's just like the three of us, I just feel like I'm going to talk whatever shit.
Talk.
I tried to get into the Hustler Club in New York City on the West Side Highway. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? You can see it from the West Side Highway when you're driving. Yeah. When I was like just 18 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was me and my friends, and we were all like shitty dressed, like alt rock kids and like... flannel and stuff, and we like walked up to the Hustler Club because it was my friend's 18th birthday, and we got within about a quarter block, and it's right on the West Side Highway, so you can't be going anywhere else, you're going there. And the bouncer saw us and said, I've never seen a group of people who is more not getting into this club than you guys. And we had to just turn around and walk away and go go play beer pong somewhere.
But it wasn't because you were white.
It was not because I was white.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So and that
But the bouncer was white and it didn't help me. No. Is my point.
That was one time your white privilege did nothing.
Yeah.
All right. I respect that. So Well, a couple things happening. So Fort Collins is actually a national news story right now. Mm-hmm. And if people haven't heard about it, it's because at Colorado State University, they were having a college tour, and their two boys who were Native Americans They joined the tour late for whatever reason.
They came up from New Mexico, is that right?
They came
Yes,
from New
New
Mexico. And a white woman called 911 and said, they don't belong. They're making me sick. I don't know what they are, kind of situation. So when I first heard this story, and then the police came, and it was a pretty, what I would imagine, a traumatizing experience for those boys. One of the things, though, that came to the first thought I had was, because I've been thinking about this a lot with like my mixed race stuff and all that, and my experiences here in Colorado as a mixed race woman, just that lady didn't know how to identify them, and she was like, I think they ISISes. That's what I think she thought. Like,
Have you listened to the call? Did you hear the call?
I've not heard the call, but I did
Yeah.
read the article about why she felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Part of it was their clothing had very dark, disturbing images.
And they are metal kids.
It
They're in a
happened to
metal
be
band.
heavy metal. They're in
Yeah.
a heavy metal band. And she also said that this may be nothing. If this is nothing, I apologize. She like made this thing, but that doesn't mean that the response to it is not going to be bad, which
Yeah.
is
Impact versus
impact
intent.
their
Yeah.
impact. Yeah.
Well, I would encourage you to listen to the call because it's
I would
fascinating.
like to hear that. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really, it's just interesting. I mean, you've got the words right.
I have
You
the
know what it
word.
is. But if you
Yeah.
hear it, it's really interesting because my thing is not so much that this lady was freaked out. God knows what freaks out middle-aged white ladies. Fucking everything does. What amazes me is that we have a society in place where you can call the police to report that someone stands out.
Yeah.
And that is sufficient for armed representatives of the state to arrive and take action.
Right.
That's wild to me.
It is.
She literally says that. They stand out. You
stand
can
out.
tell they don't belong
And they
here.
didn't answer
stand
her.
out.
One of them said the reason he didn't talk to them is because he was shy. And I know all about that because I'm shy. But they said that he didn't answer when they said like, "Oh, what are you guys doing here? What are you doing here?" And he didn't say anything. So they're like, red alert. Mm-hmm. And you know the whole thing about if you see something, say something. Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing about that is if you see somebody who is makes you feel uncomfortable because they don't look like you or they don't talk like you or they don't answer you, then call somebody.
But also, how many times a day does a person of color walk past a creepy ass white kid in a metal t-shirt and not call the police on them?
That's the point.
That's me every day. So I'm a public servant. Nothing I say reflects my place of employment. Thank you very much. But that does cross my mind regularly. Mm-hmm. You know, there was a shooting at a public library in New Mexico. Okay.
Right.
And I feel like sometimes I see those white kids, right, wearing their backpack, and I do feel nervous. Mm-hmm. I do feel afraid. And you know what? I don't say anything.
Right.
I don't say anything. I don't even know if I can like unpack that or if you
But
want
you still
to.
feel afraid.
I feel afraid.
Sure.
Well,
and
was
I would
some-
clarify that you feel bad about it because you empathize and because you know that for every Dylan Roof, there's 100 weird, quiet white kids with their hair in their eyes who like heavy metal who are not trying to murder people. But that level of individualized empathy was not extended to those kids in that circumstance.
God damn, why James, you be just doing it with them descriptions. I like that. I understand.
Right.
But I wanted to talk about my personal experience
Yes.
in Fort Collins, if I may.
Yes, please.
So I don't know if you guys listened to last week's episode or the week before with Alan Tellis. Alan Tellis wants his bike back.
It's an excellent episode.
Which honestly was, I think, maybe one of our best episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So I strongly recommend that you check that out.
He's a great guest. We should have him
Oh, no,
again.
we don't have him
very soon.
again. Alan, we love you, baby. And Alan told me that if I wanted to rock my braids, I could. Because I was nervous to like have this hairstyle that would be kind of ethnically exciting for my white workplace. And I got my box braids. And I'm looking good, y'all. I'm looking real good. But in case you've never had box braids before, like me,
I have not.
it is a very long process. It took 2 nights. We stayed up till 3 a.m. trying to finish. We didn't finish. And then I had to put a scarf on my head and I fucking looked like Johnny Depp from Pirates of the Caribbean. Like straight up. And Disha, who kept being like, nah, just do it African style. And then she also was like, but don't wear that brown one because you do look like Johnny Depp. Anyway, so the whole hair thing, but I was feeling really good and like really empowered and excited to like have my hair done, yada, yada, yada. So then we had Maria Nagawa, who was on our Black Panther episode. Very special episode.
Two-parter.
Yeah, it's a two-parter. It was good, though, honestly. Watch Black Panther again and then just listen to our episodes because that shit is tight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Crap. Going too long.
You went to... No.
All right. Anyway, so Maria and I went to Fort Collins to see Ken's band play. I'm not going to say the name of your band because I'm sorry. I really hate the name of your band.
You don't need to advertise them.
Yeah, no. Because
I don't want to say... I feel like if I say it, I have to bleep it.
It's a jazzy funk band.
It's a jazzy funk band.
That's a joke nobody gets because we're not saying the name.
We're not going to say the name of their band. If you really want to know, holla at me on the Twitters. Okay? Recommendations. All right.
They're good, though. The record that I've heard, I know you weren't on it, but it's good.
The band is good.
The
music was excellent. That is not the subject of this. Yeah. Okay? The subject is when we rolled up to Fort Collins, where I have never... been before that I can recollect.
And I have never been.
You're a Colorado native.
Yes.
Why have you never been to Fort Collins?
I never had an excuse to go there. So I didn't know anybody going to CSU growing up. I had friends in Boulder and UNC and Greeley, but I just never had an excuse to go up there. And also, I felt like I didn't feel welcome up there. I felt like it was northern Colorado kind of redneck country. That's why I never went there. And I knew a fact about Fort Collins that I found very interesting. Fort Collins, the old town in Fort Collins, is one of the examples of what they used for Main Street USA and Disneyland. And you can Google that because I actually did to figure out, because sometimes there's like a rumor like, oh, this is like the basis for it. The guy who worked with Walt Disney sent pictures of Old Town Fort Collins and said, we should make Maintown USA like this. And Disney agreed and made some of the bank and some of the other stuff to look like that. So it's like very much Maintown USA, but I never wanted to go there because I didn't really feel like it was a place I wanted to go. It was just like out in the boonies up in northern Colorado.
So I will say when we arrived, we got an Airbnb and I drove up with our son and with Maria. Maria is Black and she is from Uganda. And we pulled up to the house, we kind of were like, where are we? And Maria was also like, I don't know. And then when we started walking around downtown, to kind of check it out, the situation.
Yeah.
We weren't with Ken because Ken was going to set up for the band. And I feel like we both looked... gorgeous.
Yes.
Okay. I'll put up a picture if anyone doesn't believe me. We both looked really fucking amazing. Okay. But we're walking around the town of Fort Collins, and I grew up in Westchester County, which is a very white suburb of New York City. I live in Denver, Colorado. I know white spaces. But when I was walking down that street in Fort Collins, it was the whitest thing I have seen in a really long time.
Well, whitest that you've ever seen means there were no Black people, no people of color. So it was 100% white.
It was 100%
I was walking
white.
around, there was 100%.
It was 100% white. And, and we, and so it's called the Fort Collins Music Festival. And it was like, it's like Coachella, but whiter. And that's Kenny's joke. I stole it, but it's a legit joke. Because how could Coachella be whiter?
Oh, it's whiter.
It's in California, yeah.
So it was...
Fort Collins is something else.
It was just kind of intense. And then Maria actually clutched onto my arm and leaned in closer to me and said, are we in Get Out? What's going to happen to us here? She felt like afraid and I felt it too. And so, we're like walking around. It was really, it just felt weird. And then we saw, I think 3 Black people. And then we saw the same one twice. So we didn't want to make sure we didn't count her twice.
Yeah. On the way to the bar.
Yeah, because Maria was like, that was the same one. But it was kind of crazy. So we felt a little bit on edge. And then when we went to go to the venue where Ken was playing, as we went in, the bouncer, the woman, kind of said something to me and Maria. And she was like, oh, and I got like a bad vibe, but I kind of ignored it. And I was like, okay, whatever, And then
what do you mean?
Down.
What did she say? I don't.
She was like, oh, this is. She got kind of.
Oh, like maybe you were in the wrong spot.
Yeah. And then we had our bracelets on for the music festival. But then she's like, oh, you're fine.
They have the bracelet, yeah.
And that's the thing. Okay, so when you're talking about race and racism and the things that we're perceiving, I am always struggling with what is it? Because white people always want to know, well, what is it? What is the thing? And I can't really tell you what it was, but it just gave me a bad feeling. That's all. So we're in the place. We ordered our drinks. The bartender was fine. It was fine. But then I saw this bald dude with a beard looking at us. And I felt weird. That's all. It just felt weird. I was like, oh, is he like, I don't know. Is he a white supremacist? Is he like that dude in my gym that I quit, by the way? I don't go to the gym no more and I'm still fat.
And it's all that guy's fault.
It's all white supremacy's fault that I'm fat. But sorry, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, there was just like a weird vibe. So after the concert, everything, we danced, we did our thing. Ken was amazing. My husband is real good at playing the piano.
He really is. No bullshit.
Yeah.
He's like a real musician.
Oh, he's beautiful. I love you, baby.
Thank you.
Anyway, so that was our experience there. Then later, Ken tells me, Ken, do you want to share?
I'll tell you. So I'll tell you the secret. So I looked up the rec room on the internet when we were assigned to that place for the festival, and I saw I was discriminated against at the rec room for racism. This was on Yelp. So people were posting on Yelp. They have this crazy dress code. And the dress code is if you're dressed like a gangster or like hip hop or athletic or wearing black pants or a leather jacket or a solid color shirt or a striped shirt, they actually printed up their dress code. It was like anything they could use to say like, you can't come in because it's against the dress code. And it turned out it was totally racist. They were kicking out black people. Then the white person with the same thing, the same leather jacket, the same red shirt or whatever would get let in. So it turns out the place is totally fucked up. So in my band, at the rehearsal, when we were rehearsing for the band, the guys in the band were like, this place has terrible reviews that we're playing at. They like looked it up because you can't help when you just look it up to see where it is. It has all the Yelp reviews.
Now, is everyone else in your band white?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you had that one Mexican dude.
We have Glenn Tapia, who is Hispanic.
Okay.
And he is
on top of it.
He is a very chilled out, like very laid back dude. And he didn't say anything about it because he is just like, he just is not the kind of guy who would say something about it. But the white guys in the band were like, this place has terrible reviews. And I was like, yeah, this place is racist. And so from the time that I looked it up, I knew that I would have to manage the situation with Rebecca and Maria going into that club. And if it came down to it, if they did like said some shit when they were going in, I knew that I'd have to let them go in first and I'd be coming in after them to make sure they got in. Then I would just not play that night. And to me, that was such a disgraceful thing to have to go up to Fort Collins for the first time and to have to deal with this racist bullshit.
Yeah.
And to know that this club discriminates against people on every other night, but for the festival, they're going to let in anybody with the wristband.
But it's
was
so
really sick.
It's very crazy to me though because I had that feeling and I didn't fucking say anything to you. And I didn't say anything to you about it. But I had the bad feeling, but I didn't want to like fuck up your night or your performance or anything like that. And so it was very I guess in some ways like validating to me that afterwards you were like, I went with you to make sure you guys were going to be okay.
And I didn't say anything because I didn't want Maria and Rebecca not to go to see me play just because of that. So I made the hierarchy of like what I thought was most important, which is to have a good time and to go there. And if shit got fucked up, we would just get out of there.
Yeah.
But it was really sad. And then when I saw the CSU thing come out later and about the campus and about the person on the tour calling the cops and all this stuff, it was just like, yep, that's the way it is. Now you asked our drummer in our band, who I like very much, and you asked him, this was before she knew the secret of me like protecting them against racism. You said, what's up with Fort Collins, right? You said,
I did.
And what did he say?
I was like, do any black people live here? And he was like,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. He said, I'm sorry. That's what he said.
Yeah.
He was like,
He
I'm
said,
sorry.
"There's some
He's
over
like,
by
there's
the campus," or
but
something
not
like
really. Anyway, so that was our delightful experience in Fort Collins.
Yeah.
Overall, it was fine. But again, with Maria was walking with our son Kingston, who presents as white, and she was like, "You have to come with me, Rebecca, because I feel like people are gonna think like I kidnapped him or something." And I said, "No, man, they'll think you're the nanny." But
you know what though? Almost anywhere else, maybe, but even in Fort Collins, they don't even have.
They don't have no Jamaican nanny.
Yeah.
Maria, I know you're from Uganda, and I know you're listening.
Right.
I'm just saying, you do got dreadlocks, girl.
You guys know that I lived in Fort Collins, right?
What?
Yes. That was where I moved.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yep, I know that.
I moved to Fort Collins from Oakland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hashtag, that has to be the worst.
So, because we were going to move to Denver and we couldn't find anywhere like affordable. And at the time, I had a remote job so I could live anywhere.
Yep.
And I was like, well, you know what? We're moving out of Oakland. We've been thinking about like, okay, let's get out of the city and try more of like a mellow, like college town kind of life.
Yeah.
And so let's check out Fort Collins.
Yeah.
And we only really drove in to see the place. And then we kind of moved in. It was really like winging it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that it's not a college town because it's like a fucking agricultural college. It's not.
Yeah, it's agriculture.
It's not a real college.
It is-
like
it
I
is a
mean, of
college
course, it's a
town.
real college.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of being a
What you
good
think,
institution.
like at Michigan.
But when
or
I say
Berkeley.
I'm moving to a college town, I'm thinking there's going to be some art and music and culture.
Yeah. And you didn't
Fort
find
Collins
it.
has
You didn't
none
find
of
it.
that.
Yeah.
Like none of it.
Right.
It's wild. And yeah, it's crazy. It is a
Yeah.
crazy, crazy. But
Yeah.
was that something? So did you have any experience with, so like in Westchester and stuff like that? Did you experience that? Because like when I lived in, so I grew up in Rockland, which is the county right across the river from Westchester.
Yes.
Much more diverse, most of it, but still very segregated. And so I worked at a bar that was like still kind of like it was a pretty white bar because it was like a rock kind of bar. It was like a dive. But we actually were known as sort of a safe space in town because we were one of the only bars in town that would carry black drinks. And let me show that I'm making air quotes.
Is it like Courvoisier?
Yeah, like
Courvoisier?
Courvoisier.
Courvoisier.
No, so bars, the vast majority of bars in this town would not carry
That's what I'm
any
wondering.
cognac of any kind.
Cognac. Okay.
They wouldn't even have like snifters behind the bar to pour anything. And this idea was if you can do things like the dress code and ban hats that you know enough black people wear that you're likely to not get a lot of black clientele. You can ban the kinds of drinks that a black clientele might be ordering. You can have a de facto ban without really having to do anything.
Yes.
Was that something that you ran into elsewhere or?
No, I mean, in college, I would say yes, because
Yep.
I went to college in Western New York, which is way far away from New York City. I mean, like 8 hours, right?
Yeah.
It's a totally different world. So I would say yeah, because I remember some of those bars did have various like dress code things that involved, you know, what would be considered black culture.
Right.
But as far as Westchester goes, I can't really speak to it because
You were young.
I was young and
Yeah.
I didn't go out, I didn't do anything like that, and I was like a real nerd and yada yada yada. So I can't necessarily speak to that, but you did mention crazy. I heard the word crazy and I started thinking about crazy, and then I started thinking about Kanye West.
Okay. Transition. Good. I like it.
So, I mean, everybody here at this table knows that Kanye West made some fairly controversial remarks on TMZ about slavery being a choice.
For 400 years.
For 400 years. And, some of you who listen to our show know that we've had H Soul on here a couple times, and I didn't get to engage with H Soul in this discussion in person, but he posted on his Facebook about how should I just read the post or what should I do, White James? You tell me, you're my producer.
Yeah, you can read it.
All right. H Soul, you're not even here and I'm fucking you up. Cut that. All right. All right, so H Soul's comment is, Kanye's comments. I finally had the opportunity to listen to all of Kanye's comments in context. And I now understand why black folks are so mad at Kanye. It's really because his statement centers us, the people, as our own solution and salvation, and not white supremacy. And frankly, most of us don't want that type of power and responsibility. We much more prefer the blame and shame game. Most of us have been trained through white supremacy to see our salvation and indeed our saviors as anything and anyone other than ourselves. So yes, our ancestors choose to survive our Holocaust, but what of us who are still slaves today? Which is the real reason his statement stung. Why are black indigenous people still choosing to be enslaved today? Why are we still conforming to our captors? Why aren't we in a state of mass rebellion today? Why are most of us still choosing to capitulate this slave system? You answer these questions and then you will begin to understand the stinging truth behind Kanye's comments. Mock Kanye all you like, just be clear. Tomorrow morning, okay, this part is legit. Most of us have to report to the plantation bright and early to pick our survival cotton, lest we be whipped by excruciating, soul-crushing poverty. Enjoy your weekend, Black Power Fist.
Yeah.
It's so, I love you so much.
Yeah.
Okay? But I fucking disagree with you. And I disagree, and anyone at this table besides me can also speak, but I'm going to speak first.
Speak first.
So the reason I don't like this comment is because I feel like Kanye's comments, in my interpretation of them at this time, are he is saying a victim blaming. Like, it's black people's fault that we were enslaved for 400 years and we could have just did something to end slavery. Now, that makes it seem like there was never any slave rebellions. That makes it seem like people weren't resisting in various ways. That makes it seem like people weren't jumping off ships and killing themselves, because that did fucking happen.
Right.
Okay? That's what it makes it seem like. And I just sometimes I feel like when people think about slavery, they really cannot comprehend what was actually happening at that time and how brutal it was and what was going on. And so I took umbrage at this statement, and I did respond, and I had my little, whatever. And H Soul was like talking some mess about how we did it to ourselves and how black people were complicit this whole time. And I want to be very clear right now that, no fucking shit that Africans sold other Africans to the white man to be enslaved. That is a fact. Most people know that if they've ever studied or learned anything. But what they do not say is that in Africa, in various countries, the idea of slavery was far different. They didn't know what was waiting for those people when they gave them away. Slavery had a different concept there. And I'm not trying to let people off the hook. Yes, let people off the hook. But the fact of the matter is if someone took you as a slave from another tribe in Africa, my understanding of it is, you got took, that's fucked up, I get it. But they're not going to take your baby away from you. They're not going to split up your family. They adopted you into the tribe, and eventually, and it's kind of like the same thing how it was in Roman times. There's all kinds of histories of slavery, but I find it very upsetting and worrying to have black people kind of glomming on to this white supremacist narrative that, black people sold other black people, so it's your fucking fault. And that is where I'm upset about this. I don't have the word for it.
So I can see both sides of what H Soul
Lay on me.
and Kanye is saying, which is that when I first heard what Kanye said, I'm like, that's ignorant. Because when he uses a number, because I'm a numbers guy, 400 years, he's talking about 1500 through 1900. So he's talking about when people were in chains and being threatened with murder to be killed as slaves. They didn't have a choice. So he's wrong on that point of view. But he's extending the idea to mean mental slavery. Which is
Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery.
Which is what Bob Marley talked about.
Oh, you're not gonna let me
Exactly.
finish?
I'll let you finish.
Nah, fuck it. Go ahead.
We can't afford the licensing.
Yes.
on that.
No, we can't. We can't. You guys know that one. Google it.
So H. Soul's picking up on the emotion of the comment. So Kanye is not informed. His mother was very educated. He is not informed. He doesn't know numbers or what's going on. He just knows that he's saying we're in mental slavery now and we shouldn't be in it, right? So, but he didn't articulate it, just like Trump doesn't articulate things. He just like does his feelings of what it's all about. And what happens is with the slavery is that you can't escape it. If you're in real slavery, you can't escape it. But he's saying we need to free our minds. We need to be free. All this stuff. And that whole, I saw that TMZ thing with him just going off on that.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
I watched it. And he's just mentally unstable. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's like, feels these feelings. He feels them. He's trying to articulate it and he can't do it. He just can't. And I feel bad for him.
I mean, I agree with the guy, the journalist toward the end who confronted him.
Yeah.
He said everything that's been in my mind since this latest round of Kanye nonsense started, which is, which disagrees a little bit with what you just said, Ken. I don't think he's thinking about anything. I really don't think he is.
He's not thinking deeply.
I think
he doesn't know how to think deeply.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is part of...
If you married Kim Kardashian, I'm sorry, you don't know how to think deeply.
We talk about genius like it's we talk about intelligence like it's binary. People are smarter, they're dumb. It is entirely possible to be a genius, which I think Kanye is.
Some form.
And also be kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And I think that what that
similar.
journalist said to him was right. I don't think you're thinking about anything because the best exchange I've seen with Kanye in this thing, I don't know if you saw it, was he had an exchange with T.I., the rapper T.I. I don't know what this was for, some interview recently. And Kanye came out with some nonsense. He said something off the cuff that didn't make any sense, and he got called on it, and he had no response. Because Kanye at this point is the sort of person who's so rich and so successful that nobody questions him on anything, and he doesn't even know how to have a conversation. And so he said, well, I don't agree with half of what comes out of Trump's mouth. So T.I. said, okay, tell me about the half you do agree with. He couldn't think of a fucking thing, because he's never read a newspaper article in his life. So what T.I.'s thing was, he was like, and then Kanye came back with like, well, the fact that they said he couldn't win and he won. And it was like, well, okay, so what you're into is some nonsense, the same shit that white Trump voters are into. I'm going to stick it to the liberals with this one. Yeah. There's no intellectual thought about what it means.
No.
What the actual, what's actively going to happen when this person's in power. Kanye just thought it was cool.
Yeah, and he said that Trump is cool. Hip hop artists love Trump because he's like the rich guy who's brash, and they quote him in their songs. And I didn't think about it till he said that. That's true. If you look back at hip hop, they're always like, "We're like Trump. We're in our jet like Trump."
They talk about fucking Scarface too.
And Scarface, yeah, exactly.
I don't want Scarface for president.
Right.
Like it's not related.
So there is some deep stuff there. Oh, you guys, I apologize, off color. I'm actually drunk. Sorry. No, like this time for real. But that's like a whole other, not a whole other conversation, but it is something to be thinking about for what we hold most high, right? The almighty dollar, the bling, all of those things that I feel like Kanye used to just like sing about. Like my favorite Kanye song, oh shit, I don't even know the name of it. Rude, Rebecca.
That's right. How does it go?
Single black female addicted to retail.
All falls down.
Merci.
Yeah.
But so that was one of my favorite songs. That was like my jam because I was like, oh my God, I'm like, this guy's a genius. Yeah. And so when he was like, I'm a genius, I was like, word.
But he's tapping into emotion. So he doesn't have the intellectualism, but he has the emotion. And that's what H. Soul's talking about. He's like, we're in this mental slavery. And that's what Kanye is talking about. When he says 400 years, we're like, they were locked up for 400 years by punishment of death. And he's flying by the seat of his leather jogging pants. That's what I was getting at, is that he thinks...
I love leather wear jogging pants. I feel like that's a great idea.
He's a genius in some ways because he's like tapping into something that made him super rich, but it's all about, he can't really nail it down to like what it's all about.
But what's hurtful, I think, for people is like the problem is that now you look back on the comments about George Bush, right? Which I had so much respect for.
Yeah,
and it's so easy right now. This is, I mean, we're not that old or anything, but like, I do think it's weird to me. Kanye's been so popular for so long that I have friends who are 10 years younger than me who are really into him. But to them, they've never even listened to The College Dropout the whole way through.
That's the best album!
Well, fine. But my point is, if you're around now when everybody says George Bush is a dickhead, it is very easy to not understand. Careers were ending every day for opposing the war. Careers were ending every day for being insufficiently polite about 9/11 and insufficiently patriotic. Yeah. And when you heard Kanye on that, and you can hear he's short of breath, he's nervous. Yeah. I had so much respect for that moment. But now you look back on it and you're like, well, was it just contrarian to be anti-Bush then, and now it's contrarian to be pro-Trump? And he was always full of shit, and he was always just saying whatever he thought would piss people off. It cheapens everything.
Oh, God.
It cheapens everything to me.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
What?
That was really upsetting.
Because people say, oh, he's in the sunken place now because of Kim or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like,
nah, man,
that presumes that he wasn't full of shit before, but maybe he was. Maybe it was all just kind of bullshit.
That is an argument I have seen. That like he just had some dope like samples and he got lucky. He got lucky.
Well, I think he's tremendously talented as a musician. I really do.
Yeah, he has the emotion.
I really do.
He brings the emotion to his art.
And then all like whatever stuff aside, I didn't mind that he married Kim Kardashian. And I know there's a lot of talk about that they got him in the sunken place and all this stuff about them being, but I'm sorry, I don't even consider those Kardashians white. I don't. They're like Armenian, whatever, like Kim. Like I kind of do give them like a pass.
If they were poor, I don't think you would call them white.
No.
Would you?
No.
I don't think so.
No, not with that look that they got going on over there. So no, so I would say, I don't mind any of their stuff, really. But this obviously like really bothered me because it was a lot of crazy talk. And speaking of crazy talk, if I may, I would like to talk about something that touched our home quite deeply recently. There's this streaming service. It's called Netflix. Are you guys familiar with that?
I've heard of it.
Let
Netflix?
me write this down. So it's Netflix.
No, it's got an X on it. Netflix.
I've heard of it.
I get it.
Okay, so Netflix released a documentary about Rachel Dolezal. So I just feel like if we're talking about crazy people, we should just roll into that. So Ken and I watched the documentary, which is called The Rachel Divide. It is on Netflix. And it evoked a lot of emotions for me. And part of it is because my film is premiering this week. It's called All Mixed Up, Our Changing Racial Identities. And it is about, it's just interviews with people who are mixed race or people who have mixed race children. And we can talk a little bit about that if you guys are feeling it. But with the timing of it, kind of like with that documentary coming out and then with my film coming out, I don't know, I'm just feeling like some kind of way about it. And so we were watching it and I gotta say, I almost couldn't like handle it. And it did bring up some stuff for me. And I did do some writing about it and I thought about it. But like, I don't know, James, have you seen the film?
I haven't watched every moment from beginning to end, but I've seen about the first half hour or so. And then you showed me some relevant parts where they talk about the family.
Yeah.
Family history, specifically with her parents being missionaries who adopted black children and then beat them pretty severely. And Rachel's narrative is sort of that she felt her role was to be the sort of cultural translator and protector for the black children in this family. and that's how she sort of became black in her own mind.
Or transracial.
Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Get that transracial shit out of my face.
Yeah. I don't know if she invented that term or if someone else invented it and she...
Well, they just were talking about it because part of it that came up at the time. So when her story first broke, I had a strong reaction to it as a half black, half white woman whose father is black. I felt really hurt by that. I'm like, you're pretending to like be me, basically, right? And then just, there's a lot of stuff going on there, but it was also a very fascinating story, right? It like captured the attention of the nation, and we did start some conversations about like, what does race mean? And can you choose your race? And I took it very personally, and I'm sure my husband did as well, because my husband, if people don't know, is also mixed race. So can you talk a little bit about your mixed race background, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So my dad is from Jamaica. And he is 1/4 black. I know that from a DNA test. But he's black as far as his family. So his family is all mixed up, right? He's got... he's actually like the whitest person in his family. So at our family reunion, we're like the whitest people. But that makes me 1/8 black. But it's about...
Good afternoon, Octoroon.
Exactly. And my mom's side is very, very white. Scandinavian, Jewish, and
Jews.
The Scandinavian side is Finnish.
Jewish whiteness is a whole episode unto itself.
It is.
But
we're gonna get into
It
that
is.
because and James is speaking from a place of personal. His wife is in fact a Puerto Rican Jew. We have mentioned her.
Well, that's different. She's mixed anyway. But I mean, the fact that Jews are now mainstreamed into the large category of white people is a very modern invention. The idea that we just pass over. That's not what I meant to say. The idea that we're just like, that was a genuine accident. But
I'm sorry, that's legit. Okay, go ahead.
The fact that we're just like, white people like Jews. Yeah, that is some 21st century shit. That is not. But continue.
Yeah. So I pass as white, so no one would ever guess.
Not to me.
I wouldn't say no one.
No
people
one.
have guessed that I'm mixed race, but most people do not. But for me, the Rachel Dolezal thing is like she's a liar because she's saying she's transcended her white background with 2 white parents and now she's black. And to me, it's about, I'm just going to jump into it. She's black adjacent, which is when you've got step brothers and stepsisters who are black and you're basically a mixed family, right? Everyone's from different, they look different, they're from different backgrounds. And you're like, well, then now I'm part of that. I'm part of that thing. And so she felt like I'm so much a part of that I'm going to be president of the NAACP. I'm going to say my dad is black when he's actually not. It's her adopted black father. And she's just going to screw over people, sue her university saying that they discriminated against her because she's white. It was Howard University.
Ken's daddy's alma mater.
Yes. So... it's about lying, but to me, I watched the documentary too, and for me, it was about why did she do what she did? It's about what's the motivation, because there's truth, and some people don't even know their own truth. Some people are white, they don't know they are black. Like when she said, well, I haven't had a DNA test. They said, are your parents white? She's like, well, I haven't had a DNA test. So there's a possibility that she could really be black, but she's not. So it's her biological parents. But
obviously, that's an evasive bullshit answer.
It's an evasive bullshit answer.
That in the way that she claims to mean
the way that she claims it.
But what if her story was, I guess my question is, and this is where the movie gets into her personal neurosis of just getting trapped in this cycle of lies and not feeling that her real story is good enough. If her story was, I'm a white person with black adopted siblings and I give a shit about black struggle and I'm here for it, nobody's upset about that.
No, and even if she did her fucking hair, right? And I mean...
Her hair is good.
Her hair is good.
And she braids hair. Too.
She good. I said I made that joke. I was like, I'd let her braid my hair. She could do it. She could. But yes, you're right. But I feel like, and that's the thing, and she says it in the film, she's like, if you just admit it. And there was one line in it when she's like, well, who gets to say, like, what's black and what's not and all of those things and who gets to own it. And my response is fucking black people.
Sure. The president of the NAACP chapter would typically take that position, that black people get to decide what blackness is.
And you know what? And so it was so fascinating because my dad, who's like old timey, right? But he's like, he was baffled. He was like, I don't know why she had to lie. She could have just, she could have.
So
lots of white people are in the
cause.
NAACP. Like, what's the problem? Yeah. And so for me, my problem with it that I take very personally is because I feel like she's like masquerading as like my identity. Can I read my poem, y'all? Is that okay?
Sure.
Is now the time? May
Read
I?
it.
Ken knows about this.
Read it.
So I after we watched that documentary, I wrote this piece about it, and I want to share it because I'm drunk, and I also read it at the Casbah where Theo Wilson episode something.
Oh yeah, I don't know when Theo was on. It was a while ago, 3 or something.
Theo's been on. No, he's on 6, and he was also
right.
on the Honorable Disorder episode with Jeff Campbell, which is well worth listening to.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna read my poem.
Listen to every episode, basically.
Just listen to it because I feel like if you're listening to this right now, then you need it. And so you should just go back and check the archives.
So you wrote a poem about Miss Dolezal.
I did. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
It's called Damn It, Dolezal! So for me, ethnic legitimacy is about more than what you can see. I am weary of having to break and bend and defend. You're not black. You're mixed. Yeah, no shit, bitch. You know, you're half white, too. Oh, really, fool? Yes, my proximity to whiteness gives me advantages, but close is no cigar when it comes to being perceived for what you are. My otherness should be considered an exotic compliment. Mamacita, eres boricua? No, but I have lots of homies that are ready to pass me los tostones. Okay, but then where are you from? I don't come from any country but this one. Born and raised in the shadow of New York City, a white suburb where no one thought I was pretty, just a dirty brown girl that was forced to let white girls pull on my curls and press their arms up against mine and say, I'm almost as dark as you. Or worse, I'm blacker than you. No, I'm not from Egypt. No, I didn't roll up here from Morocco. No, I'm not a big Mexican. Pero sí hablo español y qué? Que te jodas, hijo puta. It's none of your goddamn business anyway. My anger over misidentification, the questioning of my motives in the fight for a strong black and brown nation. It's hard sometimes to be met with doubt when I'm on a rant and I scream and shout, oh, the caucasity. But don't get it twisted. I will say it again. Yes, my proximity to whiteness gives me advantages, but close is no cigar when it comes to being perceived for what you are. Yes, I'm half black and half white. Yes, my winter complexion is light bright. Yes, I like both sweet potato and pumpkin pies. Yes, I clearly inherited my grandmama's thighs. I know who I am and where I come from. Ancestors traded and sold like barrels of rum. A slave ship with great-greats above and below. Some as the captain and some as the cargo. And now on to the Dolezal mess. Trying to pretend she's the tan tigress? My identity worn like a costume. Netflix documentary that anyone can consume. A white lady asked me today, what's wrong? Why can't she identify that way? Let me tell you the truth. The real reason why. Because it's a motherfucking lie. That's my poem, guys.
Very nice poem.
I'm going to put those in a book one day. You can all buy them. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, and this is the criticism that Rachel got in the documentary. She went to college and she was like talking about, being interviewed by somebody who also said he was transracial. And black women in the audience said, we can't wear your costume. We can't pretend to be white. And this is what happens to us if we try to do it. Just like you couldn't pretend to be white to get into that bar in Fort Collins. And so this is the difference. You see her pictures when she's 18. She's got her blonde hair. She's obviously, white. And she's saying she's denying everything. it was sad to kind of see her story, because she's like, I can't go back to my past of being like abused and being this 18-year-old white girl who I hate my parents, and they have these black kids, these black, adopted kids. And that was her reason for continuing to lie and being cooler than she is, being whatever she wanted to be. But it doesn't change the fact that she's a liar. And that's all she is. And she's using her advantage, her white privilege. They say it's the ultimate example of white privilege to pretend to be black.
Yeah. Well, to me, my reflection on it is that there's two different questions happening. We can have the question about, is Rachel Dolezal a human being who had a difficult childhood, whose identity is all fucked up and scrambled in her head and is struggling with it?
Yeah.
The other question is she legitimately black? Yeah. And to me, the first conversation doesn't change the second one. I am here for her personal struggle as a human being. I'm not trying to discount that. I'm not trying to like shit on that at all. But it doesn't change the reality of the fact that she claimed this thing that isn't hers, and I can't buy her rationalizations for it because she pulled too much other fuckery that made it clear that she's into bending racial politics to her own narcissism. Her suing Howard for discriminating against her as a white person. Her faking racist hate mail against herself through the NAACP.
Which is not proven, but probably
there's no way
it happened.
It's not possible for unmetered mail to end up in your mailbox.
Yes.
The shit gets stamped when they run it through the system. If you have mail in your mailbox that has a stamp and no meter on
But she
it,
probably faked
somebody
it.
put it there.
She probably
direct.
faked it to get attention. Yes.
Right. And so if all that stuff didn't happen, I could sympathize with that perspective more. But so it's like, I don't have a problem sympathizing with her as a human being. It sounds like her childhood sucked.
Yeah.
And it's clear she gives a shit about black people,
Right.
obviously.
Yes.
Nobody sits through a city council meeting for 3 hours giving their perspectives on police body cams if they don't actually care about it.
Yeah.
Like, so that's real. But so to me, the other conversation, that's where there's complicated stuff. And the complicated bomb that they do put in the movie that I would throw out there that I don't know. The only person who's remotely qualified to speak about it is Rebecca, because she's a woman, but we don't have any transgender folks here. We don't have a lot of perspectives here are missing. But that conversation of like, you can say you feel black, but you didn't grow up black and you didn't have our struggle and you're claiming something that doesn't belong to you, is something that trans exclusionary feminists say about trans folks all the time.
Yo, fuck those bitches.
Okay, but if you're seeing parallels in the arguments,
I don't have a parallel in it, personally.
So tell me why.
So because I feel, I will say this because I don't have all kinds of degrees and shit to back it up, but I feel like, for real, if you are a dude that feels like you are born into the wrong gender, or if you are a woman that you feel like you're born into the wrong gender, in my mind, that seems like a little switch. Something happened in your DNA. You just feel like that. Because why else would you feel like that? That's how I see it. Okay? I don't know if that's right. I don't know if it's wrong. It doesn't matter. That's how I see it. So I feel like if a person tells me, I identify as a woman, even though I was born a man, and I'm willing to go through all of this struggle to be like my true self, right? That's how I see it.
right.
That's what I see. And I feel like, oh, you're looking at me like, I could poke holes in that. I could say the same thing. But in my mind, it's not the same. Like, I feel like that's like a biological something that has happened.
Right.
Right? Because what are we? Just a collection of cells, right? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, it's fine. But when black culture in America, I'm specifically talking about America right now, is so pervasive or represented, or all of the things that happen with black culture in this country, I just feel like, no, you can't fucking choose that shit. Because even when it comes down to that, and that's one of the things I talk about, like with equity and diversity and inclusion, is that even if you are a man who becomes a woman and you're doing a real good job of, like, you got your hair, you got all your stuff, you ready to go, and people can't readily identify you as a woman, right? Or as a man.
As a man, yeah.
That's what I mean. Sorry. But okay, but you can't stop being black or brown. Like those are, you know, and you see it all the time. Like those Jamaican videos we see when the women are putting the bleaching cream on and all those things. Like you can't like escape your like black or brown skin. Like you just can't. And so that's where I see the difference of it. Right. You know, at least that's my perspective. No,
and I
don't think it's the fucking same thing.
Right. And I would clarify, because I would hate for any of my trans friends to possibly hear this. I do agree with you in that perspective on every level. But I am saying that is the argument that's presented.
Yeah, but it's ignorant. I feel like it's like an ignorant argument.
The reason is because it's a complicated thing. Because it's all about your own experience as a person. You can't imagine being something else or like feeling like you could switch to something else. Unless you're that person who's experienced that, you can't understand it. So it's more about her real experience that she was born white. Mm-hmm. She came up with this lie. And you can just kind of track it through the documentary. And then people say that her kids, so her adopted kid and her actual biological kid, are the stars of that movie because they show the reality of like, Mom, why can't you just, you're fucking it all up. I went on the Today Show with you and then they attacked you because, and they you can really tell that they're just like, we love you, but you're full of shit. And it came through in the movie. They also showed her book that she released, and she went on the Today Show and all these like national things to promote. Sold 560 copies.
Not even, baby. I think it was like 526.
Whatever it was.
It was
in
low.
The 500s. A nationally promoted from a big, she couldn't get all these big publishers to get it, but she got a publisher because people. It's about. I watched the movie because I wanted to know how Rebecca thought about it. I wanted to know like how I felt about it, just to see where she was coming from. But I don't want to give her more attention. Right. Because she's like someone else who's a liar, which is that, yes, there's some reason she's lying. There's some trauma she went through. But when it comes down to it, she's trying to make her lie not be a lie. And she gaslights. Right. Like some other people do. Mm-hmm. And tries to make you think like, maybe she is like transgender. Maybe she is like these things that actually exist. And it's bullshit.
And that is my shit, right? Yeah. Where I'm like, okay, I'm this half black, half white person that, I'm making a movie about it. May 9th. But her shtick, her lie, all of that was so hurtful to me because I'm looking at my husband right now, but that I have had some identity struggles like throughout my life. And then when we had our son, the son of two mixed race people, it was a lot. It was a lot for me. And that is part of like where the inspiration for the film came, and I'm like having this very like authentic and real experience that I'm sharing with people, and I'm willing to like discuss it, and then to have this fucking bitch. Oh fuck it.
No, you said you wouldn't swear about white people, but
except
she's transracial.
But this bitch is like trying to like be me and have like my struggles, and I do all of those things, and it kind of it like freaked me out watching it in some ways. Like if I'm gonna be real here, because like, like right now she has all her braids. Like my hair is braided right now, right? Then I see her outfit. She's wearing like this like fur zip up vest, and like, fur vest is my shit. I love fur vests.
And then people accuse you of being like her.
And people say that. They have called me after my NBC Left Field, the piece they did on me for that. Like if you want to check that out, I don't know, Google NBC Left Field in passing. But people called me fucking Rebecca Dolezal. Yeah. And that is so hurtful to me because I am mixed race. I am biracial. I do have a black dad. I had a white mother. Like, this is my story. And she took that and she like abused that. And I feel like it's really hurtful to people in the mixed race community. And like, honestly, I know that then we made a joke about it, but it was kind of true, is that people were like giving us the side eye after Rachel Dolezal. Like all mixed race people, they'd be like, well, we're not sure you're really who you say you are.
Right.
And we're not sure about your motives. Yeah. And I don't even know what I'm saying.
But when it comes down to it, if you watch the movie or if you even remember the clip of her when the journalist says, "Are you white?" And she gets this look on her face of embarrassment and shame and shock, which she knows she's lying because she said she's black. And she gets that look on her face, which she knows she's wrong. And you know, then she denies that she like offends people and she says, well, this is the way I feel and all this stuff. But she knows she's wrong.
Yeah.
So it's just she got all this tension because then people say, well, what does transracial mean? What does transsexual mean? What is, if somebody just says they are something, are they something? Because there are people who claim to be Napoleon reincarnated.
Yeah.
There are people who think they are a horse.
Yeah.
So, you know, that,
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh
that's that, you know, that logical thing of, you know, you just keep going until, you know, you're like, well, this person says they're this, so it's equivalent to this other thing.
Right.
But
and
for her, it's not the same.
Well, and I think too, where I'm getting so caught up in it is I think about our son, who is blonde haired and blue eyed. And I'm going to be raising him with this like cultural black identity. And the thought of him going out into the world and being like, well, actually I'm black or I'm part black, and people not accepting that or questioning his ethnic legitimacy, just...
Or laughing like they do when I say it.
Yeah.
If I say, you know, my dad's Jamaican or I'm part black, their first reaction is to laugh. And be like, that's hilarious. That's a joke. Like where people would say like, I'm an alien or something, you know, and it's like, no, seriously, it's like this. And people have to just, you know, it is a surprise, but they have to think about what it really means to be mixed race in this country. People pass all the time as different things. And then once in a while, once in a blue moon, I'll go someplace and somebody just be like, you're part black, aren't you? And it's like very, because even when I look in the mirror, I don't like necessarily see it because I've got all these very light skinned genes in me. And somebody will say like, you're mixed, aren't you?
I saw it. I saw it when I met you. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I thought you were just Jewish, but I count that as per our earlier conversation.
Well, so it's funny. I don't know if I've ever told you guys this. So when my daughter was born, and we had to fill out I guess we were filling out info for the birth certificate. I don't know. The birth certificate doesn't have race stuff on it, does it?
Not usually.
I don't know what we were filling out.
It doesn't anymore, but I think it used to.
We were filling stuff out, and we didn't. This is like the opposite thing, but it's really similar. I feel like, or it comes from a similar place. We put white for everything.
Yeah.
Even though my daughter is technically some percentage Latina and some percentage Jewish, but that doesn't really count for this question.
Yeah.
But it was funny, you know, our thought was more like that we have this blonde-haired, blue-eyed child, and that it was somehow like
Posing.
gauche or inappropriate for us to
Yeah.
claim her in that way because she's in a position of privilege with us.
Yeah.
And I now regret that because I feel like it was an attempt to be humble and to not claim a struggle that we don't have. But in fact, I just reaffirmed whiteness as a social construct by having her enter the world without claiming a portion of her ethnicity that is real.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at, and that's part of like what my film is about. The all mixed up are changing racial identities, is because I want us to think about like what race really means. Because is it strictly based on our phenotypes? Is there cultural things, like what is it? And that's like what I'm trying to do with my film is I want people, I don't have the answers. You know, and I feel like we have said that a million times with Dr. Jigs on this show. Like, we don't have the answers.
We don't need answers. We need more questions.
Answers. Oh my God, James, you're so deep.
Yes,
So
we do need questions. Yeah.
Sorry. But it's like we have to be able to talk about these things and think about them and also understand that there's never going to be some end all be all. Mm-hmm. The conversation is the important part. It is the part where we're thinking about things and just investing time in that. And I guess I just want people to know that. And that's what my film is about. And we were going to talk a little bit about that process because the film is premiering this week in Denver at the time of this recording.
Wednesday night.
At the Wednesday, May 9th at the C or SIE Film Center. You can go to www.mixedupusa.com if you want to get tickets. We have about maybe 29 tickets left. So if you're listening to this, you better get your ticket. And we have a few for sale at the door, but I can't guarantee you're going to get in.
Yeah.
So
I've seen the film,
Ooh.
so I can say something about it because I've helped to kind of screen it. There are surprising things in that film where you watch it and you're like, whoa. You're like, I did not expect that person to say that.
Can you hint at something without spoilers?
I can hint at it without the spoiler because it's a documentary, so I can't spoil the plot. But people are really under the effect of white supremacy and the fact that it's better to be white than it is brown. And to hear people say that, I was shocked. You know, it was just shocking to hear a mother say something about like her brown kid. And Rebecca's is kind of the opposite because she was like, I was hoping they'd be more brown, and thinks they would be
And that
more
was
brown.
something I feel like I took a lot of heat for, and it's something I've been thinking about over the past year as we've been like making this film, and I've been reflecting on it. And you know, it was hard for me to say that. Like I did feel a certain kind of way about him coming out so white. And I mean, the problem with it for me is that I feel like it was really about me being pretty like narcissistic and like wanting my kid to look just like me because I'm fucking gorgeous. And so like that's like what I wanted for my child. And I picked my husband because I was like, oh, he's so smart, he's so amazing, he's so talented. And that was a joke. I was like, the baby's gonna have all of his like skills and talents and intelligence, and he's gonna look like me because I'm like hot as fuck. And then he comes out and he's like white, and I'm like, oh shit, like my plan didn't work out so good.
Yeah. Well, and you've talked about that a lot on here, and that's I think that's a real feeling and something that I think that's an important insight to have in a film like yours. Do you worry about, and I ask you about it because it's come up on the show a lot of times, do you worry about that as an effect with him growing up? Do you worry about, you talked about socializing him in this very mixed race and this very positive about Black identity sort of experience. Do you worry that he could grow up feeling like he isn't Black enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
We both feel that way. I was at Home Depot this morning getting some fertilizer for the grass, and something caught my eye, and I was like, oh, I should buy that. You want to know what it is? It was a tiki torch. I could not buy it. I thought, that'd be nice. We could put like tiki torches in our backyard and have a little, and I was like, oh shit, no, I can't. And if I weren't mixed race, I would never think that. That thought would never cross my mind.
Yeah, that is like a
because I'm like,
cultural-
every time I see it, I'll be reminded of those racists marching in Charlottesville with their tiki torches. And so it just shows, like, if our son grows up and feels like, it's like, it doesn't really matter. I look white. My parents are whatever they are, but it doesn't matter. And then he like associates with people who are racist and doesn't give a shit. And, works as a bouncer at the rec room. Search rec room spelled RECROOM in Fort Collins and racism. You'll see the video. It was actually on the news, on the local news about their racist dress code policy. He wouldn't think about it. He'd just be like, yeah, we need to keep these people out. They're thugs. They're others. They don't look like me. That's not what we want for him.
See, that's interesting, and I'm glad you said that because that was on your mind, but that's actually not what I was asking.
What were you asking?
What I was asking was, do you worry that he will grow up with this positive feeling about Black identity, will care about social justice and politics, but will feel that he is somehow deficient in not being Black enough because he's a blonde kid walking around
but that's
phenotypically white?
To me, that's almost unavoidable because that's just the way, we judge. People judge. Mm-hmm. We can't help it. No matter what it is, you judge. But if you have knowledge about something, you judge a little bit less. Mm-hmm. I know that's going to happen. Like, he's not going to feel like he's going to say like, oh, I'm Black and everyone's going to laugh. And because the way he looks, but I think he'll be able to deal with it because he'll know the truth.
Because he'll have us.
But the thing we worry about is the thing that I was saying, which is that he won't feel like he is Black because of the way he looks. I didn't
think of that.
Yeah.
But because I don't have your cultural perspective on it, I didn't think of it. Now that I've heard you say it, that's a much more likely and worrisome sort of thing that happens, I think, than the other way around. On the other side, 20, 30 years from now, there are going to be a lot more kids like him walking around than there are right now. And it hopefully will be less of a struggle for him than it is for people at the moment.
God willing.
One thing I was thinking about is DNA testing, right? So this is a controversial subject a little bit.
Especially on this show. If Dr. Diggs was here, he would be on a fucking rant about 23andMe already.
Right.
Yeah.
But the one thing that DNA testing, we know that it does, is it shows you if you've got Native American, if you've got African, or if you have European background.
Yeah.
So those are like the big three because they're separated by huge continents and you can find these differences. So I think once people start using that stuff more and more, because now it's becoming a fad, but then once it becomes bigger and bigger, it's going to be used for medicine later on. People will know, like, oh, we're similar because we have this thing, or not everyone's what they think, or, there's just a lot of things that people learn about their backgrounds different than the way they look, because the way you look is just one thing. Culture is a very strong thing, and that's what I got from that Rachel Dolezal movie about her background, is that obviously culture to her was very important. She fraternized with people who she thought she felt a connection to, and her step brothers and sisters, and that was important. The only problem is she lied about what she really was, but that's what she felt was the most important to her, and it is a big difference.
It is. And I will say this, even though I hate myself for saying it. Yo, her art is fucking excellent.
Oh, yeah.
She's a
I was
really
surprised by that art.
That was actually...
Her art was great.
That was the first thing in the film that I saw that I knew nothing about previously. And they were showing her art, and I was like,
whoa.
Beautiful.
And it was
she is massively talented.
And it was African art at the same time. Like, a lot of the stuff that was in there, and you're like, this is, okay. She's transcended in her art world, in her mind, her Africanness, but that doesn't erase the fact that she's white. But yeah, good for her. Like, I didn't know that. Yeah, I had more respect for her just as an artist.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're a crazy artist.
Yeah. Well,
she should do our cover of the new Kanye album.
Yeah. Why not?
That's legit. Speaking of albums, yo. Childish Gambino, a.k.a. Donald Glover, a.k.a. Stable Genius, a.k.a. fucking Amazeballs. Ew, I hate that word so much. All right, it slipped. Anyway, I watched his video today that I think it dropped today. This is America. Today. And oh my God.
It was great.
I last week I introduced the segment of positive things for people of color. We're working on that.
Yeah.
So typically I don't watch videos on
Music
the interwebs.
videos.
No, in general. When people send me a video, including you, my beautiful husband that I love, you're always like, did you watch it? I'm like, nah, bro, I don't have time for that. So I don't usually watch it.
Are you like me where when someone recommends something to you that you really think is going to be good, you think, I gotta wait till I have time to give it the proper attention, and then fucking 3 years goes
later.
by.
And you don't look at it. So so sometimes I want to see things. I do give them extra value if my husband sends it to me. So usually I try to check it out, but oftentimes I don't have time. But I still love you so much. You're my favorite person. All right. So that said,
I didn't send this to you though.
So the person who actually
That's why she watched it.
Yes.
it's true. Oh, babe, I love you though.
That's all right.
So it was actually Theo Wilson's girlfriend. Hey girl. She gonna be a big star. I can feel it in my bones. But anyway, she had posted it, and so I gave it a little extra weight because she posted it and I like her and she's cool and all that. And I looked at it and I was blown away. I was blown away. And if you have not seen it yet, you need to pause. Just pause. We'll wait. It's like, we're not going to wait. But watch it and then get back to us. Because
it's called This Is America.
This Is America. Yeah. Childish Gambino. Just Google it. It's going to be number one because it is amazing.
It's phenomenal.
So I almost feel like I don't even have words for it.
Well, it's like a confluence of three different things.
Okay.
It's music. So the music is great.
It's a great song.
It's acting. And it's filmmaking. The filmmaking. Like the whole thing, like you actually have to watch it a few times because the first time you see Donald Glover acting and you're like, this is amazing acting. Like it's got this surprising stuff in it. And then I had to ask Rebecca, I'm like, is Donald Glover like the artist on this? There were different people in it, but he's amazing. I didn't know he did that.
He's amazing.
I didn't know he sang and did all that stuff. But then the filmmaking, it's like, it's a perfect confluence of three different things. And when I watched it, you gave it this big build up, and I watched it, and I was kind of quiet, and I was just like, "This is amazing." I couldn't get all the lyrics, so I had to look up what the words were in the song, and then I read those separately. I'm like, "Wow, this is an amazing piece of art."
Wait, James, what did you think of it when you watched it?
I thought it was great. I've kind of underrated him for a while. I wasn't really into. He just wasn't. I kind of thought it was like cutesy indie rap, like his first record, and then he did the last record where it's basically like P-Funk covers, which is like cool, but I'll just listen to P-Funk, and I just never really gave him that much credence. And then, but this video is outrageous, and the song is awesome. And I mean, I don't know what you guys connected with. I mean, I thought the thing that really hit me in the video the most is him. It's not a spoiler. You should watch the video. But it's him. It opens on that chair with the guitar on it, and then an old man who presents as being some sort of African guitar player,
magical Negro.
A jelly or a West African Lagos guitar kind of guy, sits down and starts playing, and then when they pan back out, he's got a white hood over his head and he gets shot in the back of the head. And that's like, what do I want to say? A culture that is really xenophobic and really Islamophobic and really gets off on destroying people who live in certain cultures overseas. And at the same time celebrates this sort of feel good, happy, we all love world music or whatever. And it's like the man who's playing that guitar for you is the same man that you're funding the military to murder. And I thought that it's a point that's been made a lot of times, but I thought that it was one of the best representations of that idea that I've seen. Yeah,
it was very deep. The whole thing was just all these layers. And some people say you have to watch the video without looking at Donald Glover again, because there's stuff happening in the background and just one of these things. And apparently he was on SNL last night. He was on Saturday Night Live and he performed the song.
Yeah.
But not the video.
Right.
And people loved the song and they heard the lyrics and they felt his acting and his singing and all that stuff. So I've got to watch that too, just to see what it looks
That's such a cool thing about the cultural moment that we're in right now.
Yeah.
It's so cool in 2000. That's some shit that could not happen in 1992.
No.
That you get booked for Saturday Night Live, you write a song, you perform it there and it's released the next day and everyone can see it.
On the internet.
And that's using the current medium in such an amazing way. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
So for me, obviously, like I loved all of it, but his facial expressions were so. Damn it, I consider myself a little bit of a wordsmith and stuff, and it was just the emotional reaction I had to that, of all that shucking and jiving and all of the things that we love about Black culture in this country and just what that is. And again, it came back to that like performative nature of Rachel Dolezal's shit, like of this is like something you can just wear. And I don't know, it really moved me. It was amazing. And Donald Glover, if you're listening to this right now, we love you. Yeah.
Man. I never thought, I mean, I'm not going to put him down, but I just thought of him as an actor, and he's like a funny, kind of charming guy. And when I saw this video, it just totally changed.
Well, I never listened to his music because I was like, I'm too old for it.
Yeah.
Seriously, I was like, I'm old.
It has trap music in it, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that like plays. So it's like very contemporary, but at the same time, anybody can watch that. Any American can watch that and like get something from it.
Word. I like to say that about Off Color, about our show. Like any American or any foreigner.
Any American. We're going to drop in the Battle Hymn of the Republic back here. All Americans.
All Americans can benefit from listening to Off Color. But I do think that that's like a real thing. Like we just have to be able to engage with art. We have to be able to talk to each other. We have to like be able to think about things and reflect on them. And that's what I'm about. And I don't know what the two of you are about, but I'm hoping you are, since you're one of you I'm married to.
And learn from things.
You
know, like when I watched that Rachel Dolezal, I'm like, I don't really want to give this person attention. And I don't know if she's getting money if I watch this Netflix thing, but I want to see what it is. And I felt like I learned something about her, like the thing about the art, like just that one thing. And then the fact that I just knew a little more of where she was coming from, about why she was so crazy, helped me understand why people are so confused about her, or why they think certain things about her. But
and I do think it's complicating. I do think that even though I think we haven't been very charitable towards her or towards Kanye in this talk, because I do think that what they're peddling is kind of bullshit, and I think that we've called that. I do think we're in a cultural moment where we really like to discard people, and I think that like the thing that's complicated about the both of them as characters, more Kanye because he's made really prevailing art that people really love. But even we watched that film and we saw what her paintings look like, and they're fantastic and they're great. And it's like, man, it's complicated. You want to be like, that person's full of shit. Fuck them. I want them gone.
And then
you watch their movie and it's good, and you see their art and it's good, and you're like, fuck, well, I guess I have to think about this shit. I guess I can't just call my heroes and villains and walk away. Like, and that's what we're talking about. Having the conversation is more questions than answers. The answer is not fuck Kanye.
Yeah.
And as much as you might feel
okay, but the answer is fuck Rachel Dolezal. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm mad about that, okay?
You're right. I didn't say, you're right. I used Kanye for a reason. I didn't
Okay, so we can say the answer is not fuck Kanye, but we are still going to say fuck Rachel Dolezal. And I'm going to say it. You don't have to. But I won't say that about her sons. And I hope that they can make it in this world with that garbage last name for what it is. I'm sorry.
She changed her name at the end of the movie.
Oh God.
Oh my God. What's her name? It's something.
It's like some African. It's like Nchenge Kamari Africano.
But that's her stuff.
That's her stuff.
Back to your movie though.
Oh yes. Thank you.
So very nice.
Kimberly Ming.
Kimberly
Ming isn't all mixed up, and she says some very deep stuff in there. After that experience in Fort Collins, which is where Kimberly Ming grew up.
Yeah.
We came back because I'd never been there, because I'd never been interested in it. And then we came back and we're like, Kimberly Ming, we're so sorry. You're like, now we know where you grew up. She's like, see, I told you. And then we're like, I felt like this anxiety going there. I knew the reviews of this place we were going to. I had to like watch out for this stuff. And then these things happen. And then the CSU thing happens, and I'm like, now I understand a little more about Kimberly Ming.
Well, yeah. So shout out to Kimberly Ming, and shout out to All Mixed Up are changing racial identities May 9th, which is fucking 2 days from now. So if you're listening to this before or after, you're gonna have to work your life out. Okay.
I also want to say,
Yes, Mom.
last minute plug, those 2 kids from CSU, they have a metal project.
Yes, on Bandcamp.
It's called Snot Goblin.
Snot Goblin. Yes.
It's on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
If you are interested in metal, or even if you're not and you want to find some way to kick those kids $5, you can go on bandcamp.com. I'm assuming it has to be snotgoblin.bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
And it's like a pay what you want, download, and go ahead and kick those kids $5 or $10 for their demo.
I listened to it. It was actually decent. Musically. I'm not into metal, but I had to listen to it. I'm like, okay, I want to see if this sucks or not. It was actually good. And I feel really bad for those kids because they remind me a little bit of somebody in my family who's wouldn't answer you right away. That was one of the reasons that they got in trouble is they didn't answer a question. Yeah. And there's another video of some black people staying at an Airbnb and they didn't wave to the neighbors. So the neighbors called the police on them. And they said they were stealing stuff from their suitcases out of the house. So, that's what it really comes down to is these kids are just trying to be kids. They said they wanted to live in Fort Collins because it was close to Denver. And they were from New Mexico, and they could go to metal concerts in Denver, and they wanted to be close to it. And their dreams may be ruined now. If that happened to me, I wouldn't want to go to Fort Collins.
No.
I would go somewhere else, but it's just that can change their whole life. And that person who called needs to think about that.
Well, and I think a good PSA for white people generally, you can tell me if you agree with this. If nobody's life is at risk, never call a cop. What is wrong with you? Yeah. If there is a brown person involved in a situation and no one's about to die, you are inviting a gun into a situation where the gun could go off. Yeah. And there's no reason to do it, and there's no excuse to do it. Find some other way of dealing with awkwardness in your life other than calling a gun to come in and make you feel better. That would be my personal advice to other white people.
Arguments over here. Yeah. All right. That's it, homie?
I feel good about it.
I feel good, too. All mixed up.
I know you felt good going in.
I felt a little too good to tell you the truth. And now I'm like, what else can we get into after we get off the... Oh, we gotta go get our baby, homie.
Yes, you did.
All right. So, Henderson McCorkle's out. High five me.
This is all
all this stuff. Good. All right.
You suck it.
You said no editing.
There's your funny button. No, I'm not editing anything.